Our next speaker is Mr. Mike Williams, followed by Ms. Benita Barnes.
To Mayor Bynum, the esteemed council, to the Crutcher family and friends gathered here today. I am not a citizen of North Tulsa, but I am a citizen of Tulsa. I am not quite obviously an African American, but I am an American. And there is a problem that is sweeping our country that has unfortunately adversely affected our city as well. And it has become an epidemic of white police officers disproportionately killing unarmed black men, most of whom posed no threat, and many of whom had committed no crime. Right here in the city of Tulsa, the unjustified shooting of Terence Crutcher was not the first such incident. And unfortunately, Terence Crutcher has not been the last. This problem has become an almost weekly story on our national news. If a trained police officer fears for their life for no other reason than being in the presence of an unarmed black man, whose only threat to them is actually being black, then being a police officer is probably not the career for you. Without immediate and sweeping reforms called for by the Crutcher family and the community, this will continue, even as the state of Oklahoma expands its stand your ground law, while at the same time passing a bill which Governor Fallin will almost certainly sign, allowing any person to conceal carry without even having a permit. And African American deaths at the hands of police officers will rise as police fear even more for their lives as they confront innocent, armed black people who have a legal right to carry a gun. This is insanity. Dylan Roof shot up a historic African American church during their Bible study, killing 9 people, including the pastor. And not only was apprehended peacefully and without harm to himself, but was taken to a drive-thru for his favorite meal on his way to being booked. He wasn't shot, though he was definitely a threat. Nicholas Cruz killed 17 students and faculty at a Florida high school and was apprehended peacefully and without harm to himself. He wasn't shot, though he was definitely a threat. Terence Crutcher didn't shoot anyone. His vehicle broke down in the middle of the road. While Officer Betty Shelby, responding to a domestic violence call, should have either continued on to her call or stopped to render aid, instead treated Terence Crutcher like a dangerous criminal before knowing anything about him. But the one thing Officer Shelby did know about him was all that she needed to know. And the fact remains that Terence Crutcher is dead today because he was black. As long as white people see this as a black problem, it will never change. But it is not a black problem. It affects us all. Anything that has ever been done to a particular group of people has never stayed confined to that group of people. It always breaks out and affects the entire community. The Bible says that God has made of one blood all nations of men. The word nation comes from the Greek word ethnos, from which we get the English word ethnic. Out of one blood, God made every ethnic group, which means that race is a fiction, but racism is not.
Sir, you have 1 minute.
There is not only racial disparity in this country and in our city, but there is racial injustice. Indeed, racial injustice and racial violence is at the very core of this city's history. The Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. Let us be better than who we were. Let us be better than who we are. And let us not allow our history to also be our legacy. At the time, our then newly elected mayor, even after the verdict had been handed down, said it was obvious some things still needed to change. Mr. Mayor, when does it change? Thank you.